We
One
gotta
of the
start. I gotta
million
get
of.
to a table and I'm waiting to press play and they're about to leave. Come on.
All right. You guys, I'm going to go into the Remarkist app, and on three, we can go ahead and get started. So, 1, 2, 3.
This doesn't sound like Mal. This sounds like book.
It is book.
That
So
is
does
book.
it
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say on my version, it was book too. I watched it on social media and it was.
I believe
The
it rotates among the cast.
All right,
the
Mary.
late great Ron
Mary,
Glass.
play.
Ooh, I love that show.
Thank
Quick little fun fact: Ron Glass was on a '70s show called Barney Miller that I loved very
Correct.
much.
I loved him on that.
Oh, he's awesome on Barney Miller.
Lisa's husband loves him in Barney Miller.
This has got a real cantina vibe.
Watch what they're playing.
Chinese checker.
Yep.
I've never played that game. We own it, but I've never played
Now,
it.
this episode actually aired first. It aired on September 20th. And because of it, Firefly, we call this U Day.
Sherry, since you're an expert, was this the episode that was like kind of rush written? Like they
Yes,
had
it
to write
was.
it
Yeah.
really quickly?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so.
They wrote it. They wrote it in a weekend.
Oh my gosh, they're
There's
genius. It's
dishes.
such a great episode.
Oh, right. He was fighting against that. He was on the other side. Mal.
Mm-hmm.
Can I have one more glass of Nagape, please? Thanks, Zoe.
Isn't it nice that the guy lets the girl do the action?
Oh, this is such a happy development.
You gotta love Jane and his attitude.
Jane knows when it's a day off.
It's always a day off for Jane.
Public relations.
He's very good at public relations.
All right, Wash, where are you? Yes, we will.
Oh,
So
I'm
you,
loving Wash. I think that Wash is now my favorite.
I was gonna say, John, are you digging the? Did you like the cantina look that you were? I heard you say it reminded. I'm assuming you meant Star Wars.
Yeah, of course.
When I rewatched the pilot, Wash is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, he's fun.
Because of the dinosaurs.
He's just like kind of little smart assy and sarcastic. I just
So I do enjoy this
Good.
episode. You know, it's interesting that this is the result of the notes about the pilot episode. This is the, you know, like was mentioned earlier, rushed to be the new pilot episode. I do think is a strong episode, but it's just it doesn't compare to the opening that the actual pilot is.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Here's your chance to learn the lyrics, John. Sometime we're gonna have a sing.
Well, I was ready to do it. I mean, I was fully prepared because
Okay.
I've got the subtitles and
All
it's
right.
and I've got the melody in me. You know, be
Next
since
episode
I
it
found
is.
serenity, you untake the sky from me.
Ooh, I like
Mm.
that. I
I, I
like those
want.
tones, John.
I wanted John to sing the theme song because Sherry was so antsy. She wanted to say stuff. I wanted her not to, so I said, "Sing us
Oh,
the theme song."
I'll do it next time. I'll do it next time. It's a good song. Is
I
there like
always
a
hear.
little? Is there like a little dot on your in the middle of the screen on the?
No.
No?
No.
Maybe my TV is dirty.
Time for an eye test, John?
It's some sort of weird artifact that comes with the subtitles.
I have the subtitles on. I'm not getting that.
My favorite characters are about to be mentioned.
John, see, John, God ain't.
No, this man has lost his faith.
You could say that again.
Will he get it back before the end of this first season, or will we have to wait for the movie?
So, Sherry, I got a message from somebody who was reading the credits, and they're very excited about the person you were talking about. But John missed it, obviously, in the credits.
Woohoo! Yes.
There you go, terrifying space monkeys. You'll never get a better character.
Horrible old tyrant.
They have incredible chemistry.
They really do. They play the tension really well.
Yeah, that's a relationship that's like a Mulder and Scully-esque relationship that would have really just it would have aged so beautifully over like 7 seasons.
Exactly.
Yes, it would have.
Always in my head thought of it like the Sybil Shepherd, Bruce Willis relationship on
Moonlighting.
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 Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I recognize Crow. Holy cow. He was Latimer in the program, like this really old football movie.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yes. I love him. I can't remember his name though.
I'm already on that. Andrew Bryanskary. It's a mouthful.
Berensky, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was also in Any Given Sunday, I think.
Yes. Hudson Hawk.
Hudson Hawk is one of my favorite B movies.
I love Hudson Hawk. It's so good.
He was Butterfinger. Niska is so creepy.
He is creepy. And he has beady eyes.
And he
He's
gladly killed his nephew.
he's a great character actor. He's been in so many things.
Of course, I'm like trying to see whether that train has wheels on it or whether that's a space train.
What
That's like all I
why
was
does it
thinking. I
have
was
to
like,
be
is that
either
a space
or?
train? Oh no, those are mountains. All right, not a space train.
And I was thinking that you were probably thinking that.
I was looking at it to see if it looked like a space train in the diagram.
That's
And
all
I've
right.
seen this
Means that I
before.
get the it means I get the space train. I can use that.
Uh, Look.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
No wheels.
No wheels.
It's a hover
It's a
train.
space train.
Yeah, but it's not an intergalactic space train. We're not gonna get spaceship horses and little pods that represent the people. So we're gonna get it in something that I write at some.
There's a playground at our local park with a train, like it's a train playground type equipment. And the little boy was telling me about a space train or something one day. So I think maybe he might have to come work for or write for you when you come up with this.
Get me his number.
Gotta love that leftover armor from Starship Troopers too.
Yep.
Yup.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. It's fully leftover armor.
Zoe, played by Gina Torres, was married to Lawrence Fishburne for many years.
Yeah, up
She
until
was?
recently. Yep.
They broke up in like 2018, I want to say.
She actually got married during the run of filming this show. She had to leave one of the episodes. We'll get there to for her wedding.
Now all I can think about is bugs.
Are those actually the outfits from Starship Troopers? So they do look an
Yes,
awful
they
lot like
Yes.
are.
them.
Oh,
That's
there's no
amazing.
question that 100%.
Never put that together before. I love it.
Makes it more fun.
I love Zoe's response.
And I love his. If you die, can I have your share? Yes. The blush. An absolute genius. Understand?
So the guy who plays Jane was in the movie The Patriot, and I remember seeing that, and I always still think of him as that character in these kind of scenes. He still reminds me of that character. Terrible. I'd get him out of my traitor.
Not Mother from Full Metal Jacket.
No, he sticks out from the Patriot for
Yes.
me, and Chuck.
Chuck
Well,
for me,
Casey is
Full Metal
awesome.
Jacket as well. Yeah.
Funny enough, when I'm not watching Firefly, I think of him as Jane.
Sorry, John, no horse spaceships.
Horseships.
But there are chickens.
I think we just saw the space monkey jump out of the plane.
Ho, ho, ho. They didn't get out of there.
Welcome to Paradiso.
Who's that?
Greg Henry.
Wow. I really expected a different reaction, John.
Sorry, I missed that. I was giving a good night to my daughter.
Oh, so you didn't see them.
No, I didn't.
I saw.
All right, I'll wait for it. Good night, Josie. Night, Peanut. I love that he thinks he's covered.
He actually had to squish himself down a little bit when he would stand next to Gina Torres because he's actually taller than her.
Yeah, he's a 6'4". He's a tall dude.
No, that's Adam, not Alan.
Oh, there you go about Adam.
I have one of those clipboards. It's behind her head. I used to use it at work.
And when Jane said, "Why you parked here? This isn't the goat said that goat said that it's dog humping rendezvous."
So I missed somebody other than Greg Henry, I guess.
I thought you were
No,
going to be
no,
all
No,
excited
it's
Greg.
Greg
about
Henry.
him. I thought you were going to be all excited about him.
Oh, I did respond when I saw Greg Henry.
Oh, you did?
I saw him walking up behind him,
Yeah, he
and I was
said
like,
something when he came on the.
yeah, and I said, "Oh, Greg Henry."
Oh, see, I thought you were going to go, oh, Mitchum.
He popped up on The Resident the other day too, which is funny because
No, because I don't actually. I mean, he's Mitchum in Gilmore Girls, but
No,
outside of that,
I
because I've seen
know.
him in so many other things, he's just He's just Greg Henry.
He is in a lot of stuff that I've watched as well. A lot of guest roles.
Yes, he's actually does an episode of Castle too.
Can you name the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies that he's in?
I know I've seen him and stuff.
I know I'm sitting here, I'm like
I'm
thinking,
trying to think.
no, I can't, Molly. I'll admit I can't do it.
He is Peter Quill's grandfather in Guardians of the Galaxy's Volume
Yeah, I was
1
gonna
and
say
2.
he's probably something in Guardians of the Galaxy because he's friends with James.
Yep.
That was what was on my brain was that movie, but I couldn't think of what his character was.
Yeah, sorry, I'm at work, or I would have answered that. Yeah, it was Guardians.
Yeah, I believe he's the first one to speak in that film.
Would his jaw be open?
Great line.
He thinks on the off the top of his head. He got
I love that line. Whee! Night, Jane.
just
Nobody feels comfortable with him in charge.
I love that Wash just puts his feet on Jane.
Good footrest.
Jane's good for something.
Bet he makes mean doorstop too.
She actually had to slap him over and over and over again, and he was bright red by the end. They actually wound up padding the inside of her glove because they really wanted her to hit him.
His mouth is all big.
Wait for you guys.
So does Jane qualify as drunk acting, John?
He's drugged
No,
acting.
no, that's not drunk acting. That's a different thing. Drugged acting, that's a completely different. It's related, but I haven't started a collection yet. I should. There's plenty of good ones out there.
Tiffany thinks it's drunk adjacent and should count.
There's just a whole genre of like of films like of drug films, and they just have so many performances in it that are. I just feel like it's its own thing, but adjacent. I'll give it that.
Anthony Michael Hall's drugged acting is perfection.
I like that they kept
In
Watts in
Weird Science,
character there, and his combat strategy was hit somebody with a vehicle.
In Weird Science and in The Breakfast Club.
hit somebody with a vehicle. Yeah,
I'm
he is good in both
aiming
of
for his head.
Yeah,
Classic
and he's the
plot.
pilot.
There's also a subcategory of drugged acting, and that is the specifically after the dentist, you've gotten the laughy gas. That's a whole subgenre of the drugged acting genre.
So you ought to be a dentist in Little Shop of Horrors. Is it takes that whole thing to a new level. He shouldn't have said that.
Holy,
Bye-bye, Crow.
holy crap! Oh my god, that was intense for network TV.
Yeah, and notice the next guy. He's like, "This is this guy." Oh no, we're good. I promise. I'll tell them. All's good. Yeah.
That was
I mean, if you saw, he was sitting on the ramp for the whole Crow discussion, so.
You hear what she's saying, John? 2 by 2 hands of blue.
That's
Ooh.
the end. Doesn't it feel like super short? I feel like it's half an episode. Let's go on
It
the next one.
does. It does feel very short compared to last week's.
Yeah, I mean, certainly compared to the last one. I mean, it felt like that felt like a normal TV length episode. I'm sort of on board with Doug that I think that the last the pilot probably would have done well to be broken into two parts. Uh, I Yeah. Although I do think that the second half of the pilot is way more engaging and exciting. You have to be somebody who can deal with a lot of like exposition to get through the first half of the pilot. Like if you're somebody who just can't really deal with like meeting characters and exposition, all of that stuff, I could see the first half of the pilot losing some folks. And if you can get them to the second half of that pilot, then they wouldn't, they're hooked. They're not gonna,
Which
they're
is
not
why I
gonna.
think splitting it wouldn't have been a good idea
Yeah,
because
Yeah, that's my
anyone
point.
splitting.
who was bored.
I think splitting it would have probably made for a pretty slow pilot that was very expositional and would have lost its audience. That said, it is long and this like 45-minute length is just, I just prefer it for this type of a story
Yeah, I
in
had
general.
to tell a couple of people that they needed to watch the entire pilot in order to get them hooked. And once they watch that whole thing, I've made many a brown coat.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, though, like I watched it well after it had aired, and if I had started with the train job, I probably wouldn't have kept going.
Oh,
Um,
really?
I like the train job. Don't get me, like I said, my favorite characters are on it, but
I sent you a
I
picture
don't.
of today's shirt, Mary. It is
Yeah, I
the,
saw,
the terrifying space.
but I don't know anything about these people. Like I don't know why they reference the fact that Mal is keeping Simon and River, but I don't know why that is. They're just on the ship. Like if you just look at the train job as the very first thing you see, the connections between them are
There's a
so
lot of
faint.
backstory missing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even like the first scene with them in the bar where they're talking about, it's 6 years later and the independence, it's U Day, it's Unification Day. You wouldn't have gotten that if you didn't see that they were actually from the war 6 year prior.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was their attempt to, when they had to rework it, how do we say all that without saying all that? And so it's very much condensed down, and instead we're seeing him after all of that in a bar taking out his frustrations, and that's to show us that he's scarred from this thing that happened before to get us emotionally invested.
So, what did you guys think? Those of you who had not seen the series before, what do you think of the second episode?
I
I
kind
think that
of
the second
want to
episode
watch
is
the next
strong.
episode.
Yeah, I think that the second episode's really strong. I just don't think it's a pilot. It doesn't feel like a pilot at all. You don't get enough. You don't get enough information of who any of these people are for it to really like you're just sort of. It's just, yeah. It's a very odd. It's just a very odd way to. It would have been an odd way to start this. I don't think that I would have been connected to any of these characters.
I
And for
agree.
me, for me, I find it important that I like the characters when I watch a show. And so this whole thing with the medicine, that they returned it, redeems the characters for me, because they're supposed to be thieves and stuff, but they're really, you know, deep down, they care about people.
Yeah,
So,
they
it makes the
absolutely
characters
have.
likable.
They absolutely have heart, and that's what I love about them. Is that every single one of them, you've got 9 main characters plus the ship, who is also considered its own character, and each one of them, without them on that ship, it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, but I mean, they're certainly though they're extreme characters. I mean, even Mal, right? I mean, he's like it's like there's no middle ground for for the Mal character. It's like he's either devout or he's completely thrown away his faith like in the harshest way, right? Like I hate God, get it out of here, don't or he's like, as we saw him in that first one. And the same thing for his sort of good-hearted nature. It's like either he wants to really like do good and help, and he sort of sticks to this, helping people in need, or he'll kick somebody right into an engine, like who he doesn't like. It's like there's really no like gray for him, right? At least right now, it feels like he's either really uh like heart, or he's just you know don't cross him. He could totally kick you into an engine if he doesn't like you.
Well,
Well,
he
to
kind of
be
had to.
fair,
Otherwise,
the
he was going to
guys,
be chased down.
yeah.
He had to get rid of him.
Yeah, that was preventative maintenance on Serenity.
The
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I
space
know, but
monkeys were in there.
I know, but there are plenty of characters in fiction that would have figured out another way, or would have taken the, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to risk it, but I'm not gonna kill this person. I'm not a killer. I mean, Mal, we know now that in certain circumstances, which could be all the time, depending on what happens to him on any given day, Mal is a killer.
Well,
Like
you
Mal can
saw
kill.
him in the first episode, where Lawrence, he walks up onto, he doesn't say a word. He just
Yeah, he just
walks up
walks
and
on,
shoots
just
him in the
just
Shot
head.
the
shoots
fact.
him.
He
Yeah,
is
and I
he
don't.
is
I'm not like criticizing it. I think it's a really interesting character. I think it makes for a very fascinating character, because typically the trope would be this good-hearted guy who gives who this like Robin Hood type character who's giving the medicine to the needy rather than getting his pay. Somebody like that. The trope would be that would apply in all situations, even to like bad characters like this ogre guy, um, or the guy in the last episode who had them captive. But it doesn't, and there's not even much thought he needs to put into it. It's just like, okay, you're not going to help us,
he
into the
is
end.
he is Han Solo.
Yeah, Yeah,
And
I
he
mean,
should have looked
kind of.
for
I almost feel like Han Solo. Like I almost feel like it's even a little bit more extreme than Han Solo. Like
A little bit,
a little bit.
because
I mean,
yeah,
again,
a
I'm
little
not
bit.
criticizing it. I think it's fascinating. I do think that it makes for a character who isn't bound to, like, formulaic.
White Knight.
Yeah, Nathan is a huge fan of Han Solo, and there actually is in many scenes throughout the
Characters whose heart
series
typically,
the
like,
carbon the
they
carbon.
typically, like, are ultimately they always bow to their heart, even when it comes to somebody who's bad, and he doesn't seem to care, and in like, like, that perfect example was him just walking into the ship, just shooting that guy. Like there was no fanfare about it. He's just, and that guy's done.
I feel like that's setting exposition too, because in the Wild West, for example, when there was enough of a problem with someone, somebody wasn't walking away. It's not just Mal as a character being willy-nilly about life and death, but it feels like it helps sell the setting as a place of rough and tumble.
Right. Yeah, I
Oh
agree.
yeah,
I definitely agree with that for
the
sure.
world is much deadlier, right? And so he is a reaction of that, which I love. I don't think that white knight type of hero works on this show at all. I think he's perfectly right. I love him so much.
But that's why I say that, I mean, Star Wars is also a space western. And I would say that this feels way more like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly than Star Wars ever did. Star Wars, even a character like Han Solo, I feel like has a softer edge to them than what we're seeing here from Mal. Which
Yeah,
I agree is like a product of the world, which makes the world, for me, feel more alive, makes it feel more and more
Authentic.
dangerous. More what?
Authentic. I don't
Yeah,
know.
authentic. I mean,
I
just
like.
dynamic. Just dynamic. I mean, I don't know how. I don't really know how truly dangerous the Wild West. I guess it was pretty wild, but I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm just getting it from the movies. But the movies that depict the Wild West as truly dangerous, if we're going to say, okay, this is a space western, then yeah, I kind of want to feel like that same danger applies to this galaxy, and it seems to, and I do agree that it's reflective in this character who just has to think quickly on his, sort of be quick on his feet, and make a decision, a life and death decision in the moment. You could kind of see that coming, though, like the way it was written, the way the like the speech right before he kicks him in there. I was like, oh, this guy's dead.
If he would have shut up, he would have probably walked away.
And I think I probably felt that way because of the last episode with Mal just walking onto the ship and just shooting and just shooting that guy as he's walking on. Like, let's go.
yeah, but I do appreciate also that he does have a very strong moral code. But when push comes to shove, like in the end, like if you are against him, if you are a person that is not good, he has no qualms ending your life. It's a very interesting character because he
Yeah,
does have a
no,
very strong sense of morals.
yeah, yeah. I'm glad
So
that
Were
I
there
what
didn't
did
any
miss
people
anybody
characters that
other than Greg Henry.
anybody?
I saw Greg Henry, and then because you were all saying, oh, somebody's coming, and then I saw him. I was like, oh, Greg Henry, and then Babsy came in with Josie, and I took a little time to say goodnight, and thought that maybe I missed somebody else. Like, I mean, I was thinking, like, who else from Gilmore Girls did I miss?
Were there any characters that anyone didn't like in this episode?
I
That's
mean,
what I
I
thought.
don't
Not
think
really. I mean,
I tended to like Niska very much.
I like the Niska
Right.
character. I mean, as a
He
character, he thought it was really
right.
interesting.
I
I
wouldn't want to
actually
work for him, but he was amazingly portrayed.
I love Greg Henry, but I mean, if you want me to be honest, like I'm way more into Mitchum than I was of this character. This character was sort of just a bit of a lukewarm personality.
but but he was smart. He could tell things, like he was very intuitive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed, he directed all of his questions to Zoe.
Hmm.
And I think part of that is he knew that if one of them was going to break, it was probably going to be Zoe, because Mal thinks on his feet very
Uh,
well.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say like I didn't like him. It's just if I had to say that was there a character that was a little not quite as hot, right? A little more like lukewarm. It was that character for me. All the other characters were just sizzling hot. And I'm getting really fascinated with River. Like I want to know more.
Hmm.
You heard what she was repeating over and over again while
Yeah, the
she was
blue hands,
two
which
by two hands of blue, and then you saw them, the
yeah,
guys with the glove.
yeah.
I love
It,
the way that Summer Glau plays that character, River.
Yeah,
Like she's
I
mysterious,
really
a
like
little
Summer
quirky.
Glau in this. It's interesting because Summer and Kaylee have like they kind of have there's something about the two characters that are more similar than you would typically get in like an ensemble cast of characters.
The
Is that just me
innocence.
or hmm?
yeah, it's the
I think that's partially just kind of like the way that Whedon writes a lot of his female characters. They often sound like that because like I could pull a few other different characters from throughout his oeuvre that remind me of that kind of archetype.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the differences between them for sure, but I feel like they they both they both fit like an archetype that's actually kind of similar. The actresses themselves are have some
they're
similarities.
close in
It's just
age.
yeah, they're close in age. It just to like for like a really dynamic cast of odd characters that are all like a little different. They're the only two that I'm like their personnel or their presences in the ensemble almost like how they almost repel a little bit like two magnets whenever they're in a scene together. They're like so similar in some ways that like they kind of repel a bit.
That's how I feel about Willow and Tara in Buffy.
Oh, I don't know about this,
He
so be
hasn't watched that yet, Maui.
careful. I
We're
haven't
gonna
never
start
seen
that with
Well,
you
Buffy.
next
Okay.
I
slate.
won't say anything about the plot or anything,
Okay.
but those two characters similarly feel
I'll
similarly
find
like
out.
drawn, you know.
I will find out what you're talking about next year when we get into Buffy.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to wait
But
a few seasons to get to that, John, what he's talking about. But yeah, Maui, we're gonna start Buffy on the second slate.
Yeah.
Super excited about that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not excited at all. No.
But anyway, I mean, it's certainly not a critique. I'm not, or not a criticism. It's more just like I don't know how I feel about that yet. Only to say that that's the feeling I would get whenever they were in the same scenes together. Summer and what's the actress's name that plays Kaylee?
Jewel State.
Jewel. Yeah. But
I
good.
was
I
going to
mean,
say,
and
book seems really interesting right now.
yeah, I was going to say
Very,
book actually more interesting in this episode than in the pilot for me.
I think
yeah,
book's
Like,
because
always
Jane had a
interesting.
good point. How does a shepherd know someone like
yeah,
Nishka when Jane didn't know him?
yeah, and also I feel like the actor playing book is sort of sinking into the role a little bit more, or at least his performance is showing more of a sense of comfort around them. The pilot, there was a very like kind of affected tone to everything that he said, and in this episode it's just a little bit more relaxed. Some of the stuff that he says, it doesn't quite have this like proper affected thing all the time. Was that just me that sensed that?
No,
I
not
don't
Were
at
you
know.
all.
talking about Simon?
No,
No,
no, book,
no
book,
book.
Oh,
book,
book. Okay.
book. I mean, book in the first one is like he really was it like I it was really like man of God. You know, there was like just like a very proper, you know, that like that almost like the best way I could describe it is that Star Trek dialect that you get sometimes from actors like that do a lot of sci-fi that you know that or older actors do a lot of sci-fi, this sort of kind of proper affected tone that sort of tells us this is a you know some sort of character of a particular class, whether high class or in this case like um, uh, the
Like from
godly.
the
Yeah,
Right. But
restrained like
but in this one, I don't know. There was just like you know some of the things he said, like some of the conversations that he had. He just like some of that just fell away, and I don't know if that's if I'm supposed to take anything from that, if I'm supposed to assume, and then of course you couple that with stuff like how do you know who a guy like Niska is? Then you start asking yourself like, is some of that put on? Is there actually a secret here that we don't know about this guy?
could
and not
it
just
be
that, but
his
in the first
comfort level
episode,
has increased from last
Yeah,
episode to
yeah, maybe
be
so.
comfortable with the people around?
Yeah, maybe
yeah,
so.
but
Yeah.
he also disarmed a guy and he punched a guy out and he did some kind of things in the first episode that you wouldn't expect a shepherd book to do if you thought he was just 2 days out of the abbey
Yeah,
and all
that's
that
true.
kind of.
Yeah, that's true. I'm mostly speaking. I think I'm mostly just talking about like there's like a vocal. There's a like a vocal style that he was doing throughout the entire pilot that in this episode seems to have in places sort of dissolved, and I like it. I like that. Um, and I think I like it just because I feel like I feel like it's somehow related to the story.
I'm loving the relationship between him and Inara. And I like the little reveal that Inara says in passing that she actually prays for Mal. So there's these like hidden depths to the relationship from each end that I.
She so Inara is very she's she's spiritual, right? Because obviously she talks about
Seems
like
like it, yeah.
Very much.
yeah she talks about how like you know it's not really about the look, it's more about finding you know finding the spiritual connection between the persons. So she's, you know, she's spiritual, but spiritual and religious are not necessarily the same thing. She so I have a lot of questions about whether or not she like just how much I mean this show is so clearly like plays around with like these big themes of faith and spirituality and religion and all that, and so I'm curious about how she plays into it and she is a whether she is a woman of faith.
Time will tell.
But
Yeah, I think
she's clearly
belief
a
is an
woman who does things.
interesting thing that. Oh,
Sorry,
sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Inara's clearly a woman who does things her way. So you know, when Shepherd Book says, "I don't think the captain would want me praying for him," she's like, "I don't tell him. I do it my way, right?"
Hmm.
Sorry, I interrupted someone. I think it was Maui.
No, I was just saying that. Yeah, I think the theme of like believing in something is interesting. I think we're when we're introduced to Mal, in that pilot, and we see him lose, in the Battle of Serenity Valley. This is a man who doesn't believe in anything anymore. And I feel like, between that and then this episode, seeing him actually, like, between the last episode and this episode, we're seeing him finding things to believe in again. And I think that's a wonderful journey. And we're seeing that juxtaposed across all these other characters that he interacts with and the things that they believe in, the things that they are passionate about, as he's finding his joy, his passion, his belief again.
But I mean, his faith seemed pretty solid in that scene, right? Like he's kissing his cross. He's like talking about how God will save us. It's only 6 years later. I mean,
But it was like a switch was flipped from when he believed to when he didn't.
yeah, I guess that's the part that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around. This
Well,
idea of a flip of a switch being like flipped overnight, like on somebody who has that strong of a faith. I don't often see it in real life. So I mean, not that it doesn't happen, but it's just it does. I don't often see that. Usually, folks with really strong faith, um, they they find something in all of the tragedy to there's usually something there. But again, I
but
mean
there's
that's
not.
that's
But I don't know that there's anything for him to hold on at that point, because, like, we see, like, him lose, right, and, like, the war is lost, right. He
yeah,
is he is floating in a universe that no longer makes sense to him,
yeah,
right. Like, he's completely untethered. I think it's beautiful when they do that slow motion thing when he thinks, like, oh, the reinforcements have arrived, and then everything kind of slows down when you
and
realize it's the other
and the guy
side.
next to him just gets like just
Bendis
completely like
gets taken
Poor
out.
machine gunned.
Bendis.
Yeah, poor Bendis, which was a shout out to comic book writer Brian Michael Bendis, who
Yeah,
created
yeah.
Miles
I
Morales.
actually thought that. I actually thought that was
Mhm.
who it was a shout out to.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. You know what it is that I guess right now I sort of need. There's a part of me that has a great need to know what happened in those 6 years, and shortly after. I can't. It's hard for me to believe that, like, you know he was so he had such a strong tie to his religion, his faith, and then like reinforcements are coming. Oh my God, they're not coming. That's the alliance. My friend just got killed, and like that's it, done. I'm not into my faith anymore. I don't believe God is helpful, but that it would happen like immediately. There's a part of me that sort of needs to see, even the weeks after that, or there's a part of me that wants to see it. Maybe that I don't need to see it, but there's a part of me that wants to see it, to really understand that. I'm having a hard time visualizing it, and that's something that I would like to know sort of what it looks like. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I'm sure that there are folks who have seen that before. Somebody who just, like, you know, within a very short period of time just gives up on their faith
That would be
completely,
me.
I was
and on their
gonna say,
well,
God.
I don't think it's about the time, Johnny. I think it's about the profoundness of the loss or the sense of betrayal of that faith. That if you put your faith into something and you have this promise and you don't get that promise, that you get a sense of a feeling of it's all for naught, and in that case it can happen that.
Hmm.
I'll share something a little personal here that I think is apropos to this conversation. So as I mentioned earlier, my partner and I, we lost, we were expecting our first child, and we lost her about 20 weeks into the pregnancy, and it took me a long time to get to a point where I was ready to have a child. Right. I just turned 40 this year, and back in April. I was 38, I'm gonna say, at the time. Um, and it took me a long time to get to that point where I felt like I was ready. And part of that was because of just like my trauma growing up, is a young black man in Chicago, right? And not wanting to bring another person into that world. But like I'd done all this like interior work with myself in this like, and I finally felt ready. And once I felt ready, and I and it happened in this really grand fashion, right? I did this TEDx talk, and finally, like, kind of declared to the world that I was ready to be a father. Wrote this like letter to my unborn child, and a month after that, my partner and I conceived, and we're like, this is it. God's saying we're ready. And then we lost her, and it broke me, right? Like, and like, so like I very much identify with Mal, just like putting everything in for so long, and you finally feel like you're at that point where like here come the reinforcements, and then it all falls apart in front of you. I so strongly identify with that character.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
I was gonna say like this is what I was going to mention last week, and I said I'll wait for another episode. We, like everyone said, we see he thinks the reinforcements are coming, they're going to win, and then no one shows up to save him. And he had faith in his God, and in, he's obviously fighting in this war for independence. And both of those things were broken at the same time. Not only did, the people he was fighting with die, but the side he was fighting for were like, no, we're abandoning you, we're not coming. And that broke him. And John, you were saying, you wish you could see what he was doing in those 6 years since. Well, we know what he's been doing in those 6 years. He's been sitting in that valley. He named the ship Serenity for a reason, because he can't get over that impactful moment. So he's
Hmm.
just been sitting there, you know, in serenity, thinking about that probably all the time over the last 6 years, and he hasn't been able to move forward.
But then there's I guess a counter argument to that, which is because I get that, and that seems absolutely clear that that's what he's doing, but he's also completely rejecting so much of what was in that Serenity Valley, right? Like he doesn't want God on his ship with, like, whereas in that actual Serenity Valley, he did want God there with him, right? So there is this like complete contrast to what Serenity Valley meant to him there when he was fighting and what it is to him now. And I guess like if if that's what he's been if that's what he I, I I'm wondering why he's sitting in Serenity Valley if he has completely given up on his faith.
Probably
I
a
think because
little
he
guilt.
blames himself for it.
Yeah, it's survivor's guilt is what I was going to
Survivor's
say.
guilt. Hmm.
Yeah, it's probably survivor's guilt, and like God, he did feel like he had God in that valley, and God didn't show up for him. So now he doesn't want him on that ship with him.
Right. He was a lieutenant, I think, at that point.
Okay,
Um,
got it. So now,
so these
okay,
were his people that he lost.
right. So, okay. So, oh, okay, that's interesting. So the ship is sort of his like almost like, or the ship. We'll say the ship is like a symbol for like the place he is in his life.
Exactly.
He's put himself there,
Yes.
almost like a punishment, a
Exactly.
self
Yes,
punishment.
yes.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
It's total survival guilt.
That's interesting.
And the one who gets him most is Zoe, because she was there with him for it all.
Which is why Zoe's my favorite character. I love her. She always has his back, no matter,
Oh,
even when he's up to
she's
dumb
bad.
stuff. Like she gets him.
Yeah, Joss knows how to write strong female characters, especially for this show.
I've kind of cooled on his like female characterization over the years. I don't know if like maybe he has dropped the ball, or if I just like my tastes have changed. I still like it in this show. I still feel like he nails it in this show, but there's a lot of other things where I'm less enamored with his female characters.
I
I
think
agree.
we all kind of grew up.
I
Oh, yeah.
totally agree. And I think it's a little bit of both, I would say. I think we've kind of um, maybe changed our perspectives a little bit and want and expect more. And at the same time, things may have changed in the characterizations of the characters that he's made. That's a really weird sentence I just said, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, but I think it's spot on. And I think like at the time, like in, late '90s, early 2000s, I feel like he was revolutionary.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
But I will say that as much as people go on about his strong female characters, which I absolutely adore Zoe, and I think she's an amazing character, I do think that Kaylee and Inara, while not physically strong, each possess in their own ways a kinder strength, in the sense that, like, Kaylee has an optimism that no matter what happens, she maintains her optimism, which is a foil on Mal, who lost his faith and lost his optimism when he was disappointed. And when, went through the pain that he went through. And then I feel like Inara as well. She's gentle, she's soft, but she is just as strong and will stand up to Mal when she needs to. So I that's one of the things I like about the characterizations, is that it doesn't have to be the stereotypical strong female physical character. They have their own quieter strength.
I love that.
Yeah, the yeah, the whole concept of like the strong female character, strong male character. That word is so it's such a general word, strong, that I often don't totally know what that even means. I want an interesting character. That's like that's that's more of a priority. A complex character, a character whose range of emotions are wide, who can be vulnerable, can also uh, find strength in moments, uh, and I appreciate characters like that, and regardless of the gender.
I think that's why I love Zoe in particular so much, because you see so many different shades of Zoe. Zoe is a Zoe is a warrior. Zoe is a natural leader. Zoe is a soldier. Zoe is a wife. Like she's all those things at the same time, and she's wonderful at all of them at the same time. And yeah, she might be my favorite character on the show.
I'm nodding. You can't see me, but I'm nodding with.
So something that I just find really awesome is just that I feel like we've never really seen that kind of character dynamic of Zoe and Wash, where we kind of come right into a show with a married couple in a setting like this. They don't really go too deep into it. It's just like, oh, they're married. They're married. They're really into each other, and that's that.
And he's completely fine, like having her be the leader, right? Like she's the one that's in the spotlight, and here I am in the ship, and I know my place, and and I don't get in her way, and I love that about him. Like, oh, he's so good. They're so good together. And I feel like her character dynamics with other characters are so strong, especially with her and Wash, and her and Mal have such great relationships.
It seems like the common ground is her.
I think I'd go as far as to say, for me, she's the most important like black woman in science fiction for me, and since Uhura.
Mm.
Yep, agree.
Not only on this show, Molly, but
In all of science fiction,
Yeah,
she had
yeah.
a she had a
You
strong
know
role
what?
in
I'm
Alias
hard
too.
pressed to
you
find
would put her
another.
above Martha Washington.
Martha Washington. What's that from?
Oh, that's a comic from the 80s. Uh,
I'm
I
gonna
think
say
he's.
I'm
I
hard
think he
It's
pressed to
not
means
ringing
from
any
find
the.
bells for
another
me.
character. Like
It's from a comic book, Give Me Liberty, by Frank Miller.
Ooh, I've not read that, but I love Frank
It,
Miller.
it's you should probably read it. I mean it's a pretty amazing piece of fiction.
Okay.
The actress that plays Zoe was also on, and I know it's not your favorite show, John, but Alias, and she plays a very strong character
Well,
on there that
Alias
I
is not.
like.
It's not that Alias. I don't like
I
Alias.
know, I know. I'm
I've
just
never
poking
watched
fun.
Alias. I auditioned for a role, didn't get it, had a hard time. Had a hard time wanting to watch it because of that. That's all.
I
I'm
know.
actually fully prepared to do an Alias watch at some point. I know that it's a great show and people had a lot of fun with it.
I
So
was
I'm
just
sure that I would
poking
have a
fun.
good time.
I just mean that Gina Torres is on that show and she plays a character. Well, she's not always a good guy on the show, but I do like her character on that show, and she's also kind of a and that show's slightly sci-fi at times. So anyway, back to Firefly. How what about anybody else? Steph, you didn't watch this series before, did you? This is your first time through. What do you think? Or are you busy thinking about it or just listening?
She's running across the living room, jumping over the couch.
Sometimes that happens. Because I'm pretty sure, John, you're not the only one up here that hasn't watched this before right now, are you?
No, Jen hasn't seen it,
I haven't seen it either.
and Shelley
Yeah,
hasn't seen
Oh,
first
Shelley.
time.
So
it.
what do you
What
gals?
did you think of the episode?
I'm really interested. I want to watch the next one. It's I really like their Western kind of feel to it, how they break into like a fist fight sometimes. I just love that whole dynamic. And I really liked when the captain decided to do the right thing. That part, I was like, I kind of knew it was coming because people love this guy, and why do they love him? He must be like good at heart, deep down, or something. So I kind of imagined we were gonna get attached to him, but I was excited to see that part.
I can't stand them. Ugh.
Charlie, are you watching with us?
So I did watch Friday night. I didn't get to join in tonight until like 9:45, so I haven't watched tonight's episode yet. But I played.
I'll watch it with you tomorrow.
I'm
I
curious
told her I
to
would too.
see what you think. I think that you'll like this episode, Charlie.
Based off the conversation, I'm excited to watch it. But yeah, no, I'm definitely I liked the first episode a lot for sure.
Yeah, I'm up to watch over and over and over. If anybody missed it and wants to watch, I'm always.
Yeah, Sherry said she'd watch it with me tomorrow. I need to watch tonight.
I really want to see what is going on with the sister and the government tracking her down. She seems really interesting.
I was gonna say, John, do you want to hear my actual reaction when you did your prediction about the space train?
Yes, please.
Because I didn't want it for you that it wasn't gonna happen, but all I could think of was, buddy, this is a space western. Where are these people gonna get the money to build these fantastical sky trains?
No. I'm imagining them being like tin cans, full on, just buckets of junk in space.
I think something like that would have probably still been a little too out of the reach because these people are terraforming the land,
And
and you
also
see
the
them.
train itself. I mean, the train itself, if they're robbing it, the train itself could easily be something that's like really expensive.
You mean the one we saw today, the actual train we saw today?
No, this hypothetical galactic space train that's in my mind, Western, but yeah, sure. But, if it's train and it's transporting really valuable goods, then it would be, probably they would have put some money into something like that, something like a galactic space train.
Okay, so I need you to explain to me the mechanics of a space train.
I'm imagining a spaceship that is just it looks like a snake. So I'm basically describing a snake ship that has just individual pods that are linked together, and it's just going, it's just traveling. It's traveling in a straight direction, and those
Is it
pods are.
slithering through space?
Yeah, no, it's just going straight. It's going straight, and it's in each of those different pods, it's got like lots of cargo in it. So rather than building one big giant ship that would hold a bunch of cargo, you actually, would have like all these smaller pod type things that are all linked together in what would be characterized as a train in the terrestrial landscape. And then the horses, or the horse ships that I'm talking about, they're not horses. They're like the Firefly, or like the Serenity. They're like a ship that's like flown by smugglers, and it's considerably smaller than this large ship that has all these linked pods together, and it's flying alongside, and little shuttles, just like the shuttles that are tucked inside the Firefly. They like it are ejected, and they go out, and maybe they turn to the side, and they like magnetically stick onto the sides of that train, and then from inside they open some sort of a hatch, and then they like take some sort of like some sort of heat thing, that they then cut the wall, and they go inside, and they get a bunch of stuff, and then they leave.
John, the opening with that book is telling you what um the terraforming in Earth that was. Did that help you at all?
I don't think so. I'm not sure I know what you're talking about.
The
The
opening.
first
The
thing when
opening.
it opens
The
up, he's
opening thing.
tell
Oh, yeah, that was great. The opening was great. I'm glad that they did that. I don't typically like those types of things, but I feel like I needed it here. I wanted it here, and especially knowing that I'm not going to be getting much more than 14 episodes and a movie. I'll take any opportunity anywhere from anyone that includes from you all, anything that helps me see this story universe as big as possible, because I think it's super nuanced and interesting, and I'm dying to know more. And I absolutely love this idea that the Firefly universe could actually be the same story universe as the Alien universe. I just love that.
Hey, we haven't seen any further proof of that. Let's just hold off.
Well, all we need is to see one. All we need is one piece of proof. That's it. That's all we need is one thing, and we've gotten it already.
We've gotten a hint of it already.
Now I want to recap on all my Alien movies. So that's part of Prometheus. Is that what that would be too?
Yeah, I
Are
mean,
you talking?
if we're to believe that scene in the Serenity Valley when he grabs that turret, and you can see that it's made by Whalen, if we're to believe that that's made by Whalen, then yeah, all of that, Prometheus, Alien Resurrection, all of those would be technically part of the canon for Firefly. And Firefly takes place 200 years after the Alien franchise, the last of the Alien franchise. And during the Alien franchise, terraforming is kind of a new thing. It's starting to happen. And 200 years later, it would make sense that there would already be enough of it that has already taken place.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's cool. Maybe.
So, John, in my head now, all I have is like this Western style wagon train, but spaceship version stuck in my head, going through space with all the little things latched together for protection. That's how I imagined your train that you're describing. It's the wagon train in space.
I
All
Yeah, I've
I'm
been
hearing
thinking
is
about
if
it
John gets
too.
his way and he has a movie, there better be a CGI.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about doing some Memento fan fiction with it. I'm thinking about putting it straight up into the Firefly universe by creating a composable memento made up of a bunch of little memento chapters that tell the story, and a bunch of space horse
I'm
ships.
imagining like a prequel, like a couple hundred years before Firefly, like when they're just starting to do interplanetary travel, not necessarily intergalactic travel, but interplanetary, and um and so it's like a magnetic like field that pulls uh shipping containers from planet to planet with a with an engine at the head, which so it's like a train that moves along a track, and there are early um single man ships that would be like your your space horses that they use, that bandits use. So it's like super early um technology for them, wild west kind of thing.
Sounds like you need to start writing a space western, John, and Maui can come right next to you, and you guys can work it.
Don't forget about the kid in the park. Yeah, I'll have to track that kid down.
Can I just say that despite all the Chinese and all of the terraforming, I'm proud that belly dancing lasts 500 years into the future. That's my it's a
And Chinese
culture that
checker.
makes.
You're glad.
Yeah, I'm a belly dancer. I'm Egyptian. I love belly dancing, and
That's
so
awesome.
there's a belly dancing in the 500 years.
So, do you think that? Here's my question: do you think that the belly dancing that takes place on these off worlds, that they derive their belly dancing from Egypt, of our time, like that the canon of Fireflies is like, yeah, in 2000, 2400 or 2500, whenever this takes place, belly dancers, their art form began on Earth in Egypt.
I mean, right now we talk about the pharaohs from 2000 and 5,000 years ago, and we derive some of the things that we do, like in my church, some of our burial rites are actually derived and linked back to the pharaohs. So yeah, I can see that happening 500 years in the future.
I like that way better than just this idea of like, oh, belly dancing is kind of ethnic-y, and so let's say that this, that this culture came up with something similar. I like the idea that, like, that you can actually trace it through history, and I totally agree with that like, if humans are still around thousands of years from now, that that they could very well be still influenced. I mean, think about how much of our world is completely still linked to the Roman Empire.
I mean, we
Everything
still
from
have makeup from Egypt. Like, we still have every single
Yep,
thing from Egypt.
correct,
So of course, belly like that would, and belly.
We
correct.
still
Yep, yep,
drink
yep.
beer from Egypt. you know
That is
Right.
totally true. That is totally true.
I love the way that they kind of just have peppered in all these various things. Like it very much feels like the world is so lived in because of it. It's like a very like gentle world building that like lets you buy into this future so easily.
Yeah, yeah, but I will say I'm already sad to think that a world that feels so real, this universe feels so real, feels so nuanced, feels like it's ready to share so many secrets with me. Um, the thought that it's going to be over in just 12 episodes in a movie is a bit of a is a little bit of a bummer.
Welcome to our eternal torment.
Yeah. And at least you have the foresight of knowing how much you have. Imagine the people who are watching it the first run through. The episodes are all over the place and they have no idea when it's going to start, when it's going to end. I'm glad I know what I.
I
I
mean,
mean,
even when we
after I
watched it when
watched
it
that
came out,
pilot,
go ahead.
go on.
No, I was gonna say even when it came out, the episodes were so out of order, you never knew what you were watching anyway. So
Yeah. Uh, After we watched the pilot the other day, I like went online and was like trying to hunt down anything that I could find on whether or not there was a revival that was in the works.
Oh,
I think that
bless your sweetheart.
You're gonna
It's
see
been
a lot of
20
it.
years.
April Fool's Day.
no, I think it's going to come.
There's been
You're too sweet.
so many articles and like gotchas about that exact thing over the last two
I think that
decades.
yeah, I know, but I think that it's going to come. I think that it's largely going to be for a few reasons. One, this is the time now more than ever when like these sort of streaming wars are happening, where the streaming networks are all trying to consolidate their catalogs and give you a reason to subscribe to multiple things rather than, oh, I just have Netflix, so I only need Netflix, right? Like, okay, well, we're taking all of our content off of Netflix and we're going to put it on our streaming network so that we can get you to have both Paramount Plus and Netflix. That is going to be happening more and more. It's going to get more vicious, and a big part of that is going to be digging into catalogs, finding content that we can reboot, that we can give a new life, and it just seems like an absolute no-brainer waste of a fandom, waste of IP for them to not think about Firefly. So it has to be in the works. I'm sure it is. How far along it is, whether or not it happens will I'd say be more tied to whether or not they get a good enough script that they think is going to work. I think that probably
The cast will only do it if Joss is attached to it also.
but they may not need. Look, and I don't want to I don't want to bum anybody else out of
It
about
may
what I'm
not be the
about to
same
say.
cast.
It might not be the same cast, and maybe uh, it may not be the same cast. It may not be the same story. It might be a different cast of characters in a different set of circumstances within the same narrative universe that are also flying a Firefly class ship, um, that we do get opportunities to meet some of the other characters, or maybe one or two of the other characters are recurring roles, or who knows, maybe even eventually they do warm up to the idea of coming on in a much stronger capacity or more regular capacity. The whole thing about people saying they won't do something if another person isn't involved, as romantic as that sounds, it's just not actually the way that the business works. So I wouldn't really totally count that 100%. But I don't know, maybe this is just me wishful thinking, hoping, but I don't know if I necessarily need. I'm only two episodes in, so I could be I could change my tune by the end of this, but uh, I don't know if I necessarily need to continue this particular series with these characters. But what I can say I already feel the urge for is I don't want to lose this world. I don't want to lose this narrative landscape. I'm really fascinated. I want to know more. And so I'll take a new series with new characters that helps expand this world. As long as it's good, if it's well made, then I would take it. And do I need Joss to be involved? I mean, he's a great writer, and obviously this is his, his creative child, and so I would probably have the most faith in him doing it. But I think that great writing and great great stories come from all over the place. And so I mean, clearly that like I believe it. My whole philosophy about storytelling is more rooted in this idea of collective storytelling than like auteur storytelling. I'm actually not really all that into the whole concept of auteurs. I like myth making. I like the idea that the Arthurian legends were not written by one person, but that were written by many people over like hundreds of years. I like that. And so I would totally be into it.
I so I think eventually it will. I don't see it happening in the next like 3 to 5 years, and if it and especially because I think right now Whedon is a bit too toxic in the zeitgeist. But I think you're right. I think Disney is like we're sitting on this, great like cult IP that we could turn into a big money making machine. I definitely think they eventually they will do it. When they do, I don't. I think they pay Whedon a bunch of f off money so they can do it without him, and that would be the easiest route for them to make it
Yeah,
happen.
I think, and I, to be honest with you, I know you said like not in the next 3 to 5 years. That's probably true. 3 to 5 years is also it's a short time window to even make something of really great quality. But
Yeah,
I would imagine they're doing that now. I would imagine that they're already trying to figure out a way to get it made and to also cut ties with him. And I really do, because I just think that right now that is the name of the game. Get content, get the best catalog, get people to come subscribe to our network, to our streaming network, any way that we can, and rebooting a cult classic, rebooting, building on a fandom is just a slam dunk. If it's done right, if it's well made. So that's really that would be the bigger focus, is like, can we get something that's actually good. But I also I don't put a great deal of faith in networks' abilities to. I mean, they fumble things all the time, and of course, they fumbled this show, so um, that's possible. But at the very least, I think that they're working on it. At the very least,
I have more faith in Disney because I feel like Disney has figured out that formula, right? So like if Disney's doing it, I think I have a bit more faith in them to put an artist in front of it and give them enough support, but also enough creative freedom to put out a quality product.
I'm gonna go ahead and let
totally.
you have your faith, my friend, because for those of us who have been on this journey a little bit longer, we've gotten lots of false flags in the past, and it's
I
where we
get
are.
it. You did get a movie though,
We got the movie very closely after. I want to say like
right?
2 years after.
Hmm.
I would I mean I've been watching it since it came out since it aired on Fox, and I do think that it will happen eventually. Um I really do. I really, really do. I think that the model has changed enough where it's a lot easier to get something to happen because people just need content to put on their streaming sites to get people to subscribe to them.
Yeah, and to your point, Disney just understands world building. They understand the difference between storytelling and world building. Um, and it's because of that they know that as many of those big narrative landscapes that they can own and that they can build out, the more lucrative, the bigger their business will get. So why not? And I'd have faith that they would understand how to do that. I think probably the bigger like sort of short term dilemma would be like, how would we, if we did like do a deal with some hot new creator to write and direct the next Firefly revival, that is going to, let's say, I think it would be a terrible idea if they were like, we're going to just take the same story and just recast characters and retell it. That I think that would be terrible. And I just don't think Disney would do that. I think that they would expand the actual universe because that's the business that they've gotten into. I think that their bigger dilemma will be how do we make that press announcement without suddenly getting the entire Firefly fandom like up in arms about the fact that Joss is not a part of it.
I mean,
I'll pose that to you, Mary, Sherry, Chris. How would you feel?
If they redid it,
No. If there was a big press announcement that was like new Firefly series will take place in the same universe on the same timeline, but with completely new characters
that's
who are
probably
on
the only way I would watch it.
new characters that are doing,
Yeah.
and Joss is not associated with the show.
I'm
I'd
okay with
watch it.
just not being part of it. I just can't see anybody else in these roles because these actors did such an amazing job and it's what kept us coming back.
I'd give it a try. I I'm willing, like if I like something and it's done slightly different or somebody else took it over, I'm always willing to give it a try if it's supposed to kind of be in the same realm of something that I liked. Um, I'm not opposed to it. And unlike Sherry, I might watch a reboot with the same characters done with new people just to see what it's like. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of gave up on them going back to it about 5, 6 years ago. I'll be honest, I just enjoy what I have, and I just don't think about whether it's going to come back again or not. I can't remember what it was, but there was one thing where they were talking about how they were going to do like a reunion or something when everybody was doing them, and then that didn't happen. I'm like, I'm not going to buy into any of it anymore.
my life motto is if it ain't Baroque, don't fix it. It works. I have my 14 episodes. I have my movie. Leave it alone. I probably would not be, and like it's not quite the same scenario, but they rebooted Charmed, which is a show I absolutely adored. Cannot bear to even
I
watch a commercial.
hated the new one.
But
I haven't
wait a
tried to
second.
watch it. Just the commercial.
Is Charmed a reboot in the sense that these characters are all recast? It's basically the same thing, or is it an expansion of the narrative world?
No, so that's the thing. It's they recast the characters, they rewrote the
Yeah,
characters. So
that would be lame if they did that for this. But you're telling me you wouldn't watch another Firefly that was like in the universe that has like a completely new cast. They maybe also are on a Firefly class ship, and it's just a new cast of characters, a new adventure. Um,
but the whole time
and
I would be probably comparing it to what was there. Like
So
you were
why?
saying, it's a new cast of characters, but the whole time gonna be like the captain's not as great as Mal, or
Yeah, but what if it's really great writing and also does it matter? Like if it's a different person altogether, completely new person that has a different personality, it's sort of like you know okay, like
Star
reviving Star Trek many decades later. Um,
Next
we get
generation.
a completely new cast of characters that just expands the world, and it's like you know, William Shatner's Kirk was William Shatner's Kirk, and he was beloved, for his portrayal of that character. And then, you've got Jean-Luc Picard, who's just a completely different captain altogether. That is also interesting in his own right, and expanded that world. Like I would be all up for a show like that. I would be all up for a treatment
have you
of what I've seen so
and
far.
then and the other cool thing I think what you can do is, there's the promise of those characters popping back up, right? You can have Zoe pop up in an episode. You can have Mal pop up back up in an episode. In fact, you probably want them to, at least one or two of them, to be in your pilot to kind of pass the torch. Similarly to
Right.
in the first episode of Next Generation, I feel like there's somebody that pops up in that from the original
Yeah,
series,
there
yes,
isn't
were
there?
it's
there was a
Scotty.
Scotty, yes, thank you.
That's right.
Right,
Scotty
so
does.
like
That's right.
you have Mal who's retired and runs a ranch, and and maybe he still has the Firefly in a barn, and the ranch hand that's working for him sees it and like ends up stealing it because of reasons, right? And that's how you kick off your adventure. But you can have connective tissue, I think, to the characters that came before it, and maybe even pick up some of the old mysteries.
Yeah,
I'll
totally.
answer that question, John, by saying two things. One, you haven't hung around enough Trekkies if you don't know that people are constantly fighting over who was the better captain.
Yeah, but
And
that's
two,
okay. But they
That's
might be
part of the
fighting
fun.
over it.
exactly.
They might be fighting. They might be fighting over it. But ask any one of them if they refuse to watch the other series.
There are some who will say that, yes.
No way. Too
They say it, but
small.
they still
Yes.
Yeah,
watch
there
them
are
because they
some
need to
who
know
won't
what they
who
because they need
won't.
to know what the
Small.
Yeah.
bit's about.
There's no way that I'm going to believe that is even more than a negligible amount of the Star Trek fandom. I mean, that story world is the massive, great, big franchise that it is because they expanded into Deep Space Nine and into Voyager and all, and they let you see all these different facets. A world like Firefly is, it's begging for that.
Great potential.
My
Yeah,
second
like
comment is this is going to be a great discussion to have after the movie because there's so much I'd like to say, but
Agreed.
after the
Okay,
mhm.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, this was good. I'm gonna actually head out. Uh, I mean, clearly I've got opinions.
You've gotten the bug. You're a
No.
brown coat through and through now.
I mean, don't put it past me to get onto the internet tonight and look for an actual brown coat.
Yay! Pictures,
Hey, John,
please.
remember my birthday's tomorrow?
Same with Nikki. Actually, yeah, same with Nikki. You guys share
Yes.
birthday.
Yes, we
Wait a second, Mary, do you have a brown coat?
I have a brown coat that doesn't. It's not like leathery, but yes, I do have a brown.
Sherry, do you have a brown
I
coat?
don't, but I do have a jersey, which is pretty awesome.
Chris, do you have a brown coat?
No.
Maui, brown coat?
I don't have a brown coat. I do have other paraphernalia, like ID badges and things like that from the series.
Kendra, I can't remember. Have you watched the series, or are you also a noob?
No, I've watched it once. Now, my
Okay.
husband is a huge, 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 crazy fan.
Did he watch with
So
us?
he has watched the ends of both of these episodes with us. He's just
Okay.
getting home when we're getting towards the end.
Well, could you please ask him if he has a brown coat?
Listen to him in the background.
That was why I asked. I was like he's there in the
He
background. Please ask him
does
if he has a
not
brown coat.
have a brown coat. He wishes. He wishes.
Yeah, the good ones are expensive. And John,
Oh, he did.
we can give you links for them.
That's
Yes.
funny.
I almost forgot. He has Mal's gun and it is like on this really cool stand. I'll have to take a picture of it
I have a
and
3D
post
print
it.
of the gun.
It's heavy and it's like a real gun. I mean, it is a legit replica. I think that's his proudest item of Firefly paraphernalia. And the dinosaurs, Wash's dinosaurs. We have those.
Love it.
I have a shirt that I can't mention.
Yeah, there's a lot I can't mention. I have a
Oh,
lot, and I just
Yeah.
can't mention it right now.
I do have a Space Duel T-shirt, and it's Mal versus Solo, Firefly versus Falcon, and it's just a shirt with their profiles on it, and
I have.
like the little ships, and it says Space Duel.
I
The Falcon
probably
would
have
blow
about
up the
50 shirts.
Firefly so fast it wouldn't even be funny. It would be really sad.
Well, I know that, but the shirt's just fun. The Falcon would definitely kill the Firefly.
All right. I'm heading out.